Thank you. Deputy Speaker, it's a pleasure to follow the honourable gentleman, although I think I'll stay out of the minor internal argument between him and the honourable gentleman for Mid-Bedfordshire as to who is more rural. But before I begin my remarks, Madam Deputy Speaker, whilst I have no technical interest to declare, I once more remind the House that members of my family are farmers and that I also have the privilege of chairing the all-party parliamentary group for farming in this place. Let us be clear from the outset that our farmers are the very best in the world, producing the very best food it is possible to produce. And that is important across my constituency, which enjoys an agricultural economy. Putting it in sharp focus, 90% of the land of my constituency is indeed agricultural land. Now, I very much welcomed the speech by my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, at the National Farmers Union conference last month. But first, as an aside, and it has been mentioned earlier in the debate, very much welcome the new team at the National Farmers Union, Tom Bradshaw, David Exwood, Rachel Hallos, in particular, actually, David Exwood, who was so helpful and supportive of me as I was piloting my private member's bill, now Act, on preventing the theft of agricultural equipment through Parliament last year. And of course, salute and pay tribute to the many, many years of excellent service to the British farming community of Minette Batters as she steps down from her role. It is absolutely vital that we back our farmers and must maintain, as others have said in this debate, food production as the primary focus. And actually, I thought the comment to add a little bit more cross-party consensus into the debate from the right honourable gentleman from Orkney and Shetland, that actually, in the example he gave, the production of milk, but actually the production of food and drink, full stop, is a public good. And we should see it as a public good. If we didn't have food and drink, we all know what would happen. Of the announcements we've had, doubling the management payment for SFI to up to £2,000, extending it to new countryside stewardship mid-tier agreements, those are both extremely welcome announcements. Likewise, the biggest ever package of grants totalling £220 million, the Productivity and Innovation Scheme supporting things like robotics, plus a new round of the Farming Equipment and Technology Fund is all good news. Indeed, I have seen the value of such funding streams in my own constituency, such as the Park government-funded 300-cow Addingrove dairy between Long Crendon and Oakley, the most incredible custom-built, future-proofed robotic dairy with its own pasteurisation room and indeed vending machine, and that vending machine does milkshakes as well, something that my children have discovered to the cost of my wallet, although it is delicious Buckinghamshire milk. That dairy will ensure a bright future for farming on that land for many decades to come. But, Mr. Deputy Speaker, it is not all about robotics and grand innovation, important as that is. We must also get the basics right. We must ensure all farmers are able to access the support they need to do the thing that they most want to do and that the nation needs them to do to produce food. And that challenge comes in a number of different forms. But critically, it comes with the public's support. Recent polling shows 94% say it's important the government backs British farming and food production, with 81% preferring British food to imported food. Why that figure isn't 100%, I don't know, but it is a very high statistic. The first step in getting the transition from the Common Agricultural Policy to SFI and ELMS right is the physical process. Too many farmers that I speak to have not yet even attempted an SFI application. Some don't believe it will be worth it for them. Some are just waiting to see. Others just want to get on with farming, not the endless paperwork. So I do look to my honourable friend, the Minister, when he winds up this debate, to update the House on the overall uptake of SFI applications, and more importantly, what steps are being taken to make that process easier. And as a pre-warning, I will be sitting in on an SFI application in the coming weeks, so I can assure him I will be ready with some feedback of my own. The second point is that we need a clear goal of what we are trying to achieve on food security domestically. The new UK-wide food security index is extremely positive, but that does need to come with a realistic and higher target than that which we have now. An achievable, something to aim for that shifts the dial upwards of the current 60% figure. Only then can we have a sensible cross-government conversation about the value we place on food production as part of the many competing demands on land. Because I guarantee, Mr. Deputy Speaker, one way to achieve the absolute opposite of increased self-sufficiency is giving over vast swathes of agricultural land to ground-mounted solar installations, battery storage, and other large-scale development. I preface that by saying I entirely support moves to make it easier in the planning system to develop old barns or other redundant farm buildings to something more useful, or perhaps build a second farmhouse or a farm shop or a restaurant. Likewise, barn-top solar on roofs where solar should be. But the thousands of acres in total of farmland being actively built out for solar or proposed for solar or battery storage in my constituency alone is depressing and wrong. The latest 2,100-acre abomination in the Claydons, known as Rosefield, would dwarf the geographic size of the town of Buckingham itself and devastate the landscape forever. And for what? 2,000 acres to power approximately 50,000 homes on current usage, when a small modular reactor needs just 2 football pitches and will power 1 million homes. Solar is not a good use of agricultural land. And to those who try to say protections exist for the best land, that is just not the reality I see in practice. I'm seeing land taken for this purpose, which is deemed 3B, even though it is often land that, for example, will produce a 10-tonne a hectare wheat harvest. Furthermore, the system is far too often gamed by the developers, taking land tests from the headland, which will obviously produce a lower grading after testing. For food security, for the beauty of our countryside, for real science, the government needs to end this ground-mounted solar nonsense for good and now. And that neatly leads me on, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to the impact infrastructure projects have on our farmers. My constituency suffers from the horrors of 19 miles of HS2 construction. I've spoken many times in this chamber before about this impact. But in the interests of this debate, it is vital that DEFRA steps up and plays its part in protecting farmers from this state-sponsored infrastructure project. HS2 Limited and their contractors have no idea what they are doing when it comes to agriculture, yet their actions have such a huge impact on farming. From robbing farmers of their topsoil, causing flooding to neighbouring fields in crop, cutting farms in two, making it impossible to move large equipment or animals, failing to properly compensate for taken land, or loss of profitability. Take cattle loss, which has blighted numerous farms as a result of poor soil treatment and management by HS2's contractors, which are often operating right next door. One farmer has quoted a total loss of over £37,000 as a direct result of HS2's shoddy practices. How is that morally justifiable for this project? How can a hard-working farming family be left with such heavy losses? Then there is blackleg, a disease in cattle that is caused by a bacteria released from disturbed soil. I'm aware of at least one case that the farmer has attributed to HS2's malpractice in my constituency. It is noteworthy that farmers in this area have never seen a blackleg case before, and no prizes for guessing how much compensation has been offered. For the avoidance of all doubt, absolutely zero. We need all parts of government to wake up to the devastating impact these projects have on real people, real farmers, real businesses, and put proper processes in to support and compensate. And I gently urge the Minister that DEFRA must play its part in that. Likewise, the land take from state projects more widely must stop, not least in my constituency, the Ministry of Justice's determination to compulsory purchase a farm adjacent to HMP Springhill and HMP Grendon to build yet another mega prison. Universally opposed by me and all the local communities that surround it, DEFRA once more must get more involved in stopping this nonsense that will take away farms and further hit our food security. Moving on, earlier I referenced rural crime. My own private member's bill, now an Act on Preventing Agricultural Equipment Theft, I am assured by police will make a difference. But farmers are suffering on a daily basis from thefts and other rural crimes. And I really urge DEFRA to do more to work with the Home Office and our police forces to combat this. My own local force, Thames Valley, is leading the way. Their Rural Crime Task Force doing heroic work every single day of the week, and our Police and Crime Commissioner, Matthew Barber, has ensured that they have the resources to double the number of officers in that team in the 24-25 financial year. But more needs to be done. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I have probably spoken too long, and there is many, many more subjects that I could cover, from trade deals to flooding to water quality, to the excellent points that I entirely endorse that my right honourable friend for North Herefordshire made about the need to keep the badger culls in order to prevent further outbreaks of bovine TB, from mental health to the RPA. There is so much more and so many more points I could raise. But I conclude with saying that we really must get all the points that I have mentioned right, but we must also be positive about a future for British agriculture. We must celebrate our farmers as the very best in the world, the custodians of our countryside, who maintain its beauty, but most of all are the producers of what we all love to eat.